All right, here we go. Trade to Black, Friday morning, powered by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking in. Good little week we've had. A lot of volatility back and forth. Here we go. We're going to have Dan from the Chart Guys coming on the last segment today to talk about some of that resistance and what the gap needs to be filled for MSOs. Jerome Powell, he dropped interest rates. So we're starting to see a little bit of a rally right now in the markets. And will cannabis benefit from that? Well, we'll find out in the next few hours. But up first, we've got actually advisor from LeafWealth and former NFL football player Marvin Washington back to the podcast. Going to talk to him. It's been a few months since we spoke to him and really get his take on who he's been speaking with as far as other athletes and what their takes are on just this whole rescheduling momentum. Plus, Brady Cobb, board member of Tyson 2.0, will join us in segment number 2. So an action-packed Friday. So let's get to it. Welcoming everybody's favorite personality in the cannabis space, Anthony Varrell. AV, how are you?
Good. It's been a decent week. MSOS traded up higher the last 2 days. It's after getting shit kicked out of it last Friday. I mean, it was good to see. I mean, Noah came on, was a good conversation to have out in the open, and they still haven't been buying. So we'll see what the tape is today. Maybe they're waiting for this catalyst to potentially come, but tape looks good. Tape look good the last 2 days, and then we've got presser at 12 o'clock with Trump, which I think is going to be Ukraine, Washington. It's not, Ukraine, Russia. It's not going to be anything related to public policy or health policy. Yeah. And then there's also a meeting going on around psychedelics and veterans today, which will be good to see some clarity on. And the Supreme Court had a positive ruling towards gun owners and medical card holders, which is going to push that forward. So there's a lot of irons in the fire right now and a lot of things moving, spinning plates all over the place.
Nice to see, isn't it? At least it's getting attention, right? And it feels like, as we've said before, common sense is starting to prevail. So I know there could be some critics based off of that, but people that support it are finally saying, finally, we're getting some momentum and some conversations going on. So with that, as I said, today's TDR Trade to Black podcast presented by Dutchie. Go ahead.
And South Park. South Park actually covered cannabis rescheduling. They covered everything from the Glass House incident to cannabis rescheduling. It was pretty good to see, because if you've noticed, South Park season has been Trump focused, then JD Vance focused, and they've actually been owning it. Instead of being apprehensive, they've been for it to a certain extent. So, I mean, it's interesting because I'm sure they saw it.
Nice. Got some people from Michigan, Red Setter Farm. Actually, I'll be in Detroit tonight. So if you're around, say hi. Be at the Tigers game. All right, let's get into it and welcome in advisor from LeafWealth and former NFL football player Marvin Washington back to the podcast. Been about 4 months, but lots changed, a lot of momentum. But first off, good to see you. How are things?
Everything's good. Everything's good in the world of cannabis. Everything's good with LeafWealth, and everything is good with Marvin Washington on a personal level.
That's awesome. Good to see. I like that. Why is things well for Marvin Washington? If I had to put it in so many words.
Everything's in sync, mind, body, and soul. And then that leads to the industry that I'm in, the cannabis industry. Since I've last seen you, there's been a lot of behind the scenes work that has been done by my contemporary, by fellow athletes to push cannabis forward, push it into the 21st century. And it's not a matter of if anymore. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. That was interesting news. What we had 11 days ago in that presser with President Trump being asked about rescheduling. But look, you're an athlete. Other athletes, I had a sit-down interview with Mike Tyson back in June in Germany. Right. And he really lit, I think, the fuse as far as getting the momentum going, and more athletes, more and more big name people weighing in on this particular topic that's really picked up over the last 4 to 5 weeks. But what'd you make of that news when President Trump was basically asked that question, but clearly said that a decision is going to be made in a few weeks?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was at the gym, and that kind of shook my workout. And it's like I said, it's not if it's when. And President Trump made some promises on the campaign trail to the cannabis industry, and I think he's finally getting around to fulfilling them. And I think we'll hear something not in the winter, but in the fall.
Yeah, I think
Marvin, when this is all said and done, how much credit does need to go back to the athlete community? because athletes have been behind cannabis. Athletes have been a voice in the conversation, and they've been instrumental in not only pushing reform, but also getting it done at the league level, which has given way to many other things around the plant.
I think we should get some credit, but I think everybody, it's a coalition of everybody. You got like the big multi-state operators like Curaleaf and what have you. They've put in seven figures to this endeavor, but athletes bring a lot of attention and light to whatever they're doing. And President Trump, being a former owner of a professional football team with the Generals and being a big UFC fan and what have you, he's a big sports fan, and so he knows some of the names. And the athletes getting together and sending him that letter, it got his attention. And we should be given some credit, but like I said, it's all of us, man, including you guys.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. I'm curious to see how I know we've talked about this, about certain leagues and opioids, and if we get rescheduling, how they might modernize, I guess, some of their drug policies. Have you had any conversations with any representative from any leagues since we last spoke with you? Like, what do you think their ultimate take will be in due time if rescheduling is announced, and how they'll look at this maybe a little bit differently? Like, we're already seeing it with some leagues.
I don't think the NFL will be the leader when you talk about the four major sports leagues. I think you're going to see the more progressive leagues like MLB and the NBA. I think they're going to take the lead on this and have a sensible cannabis product where not only can the players use it, but they can treat with it, they can medicate with it. And I think you're going to see that come from them. I wish it was my league, the NFL, but I don't think they're going to do it. But, if you want to project this out in the 5 or 10 years, then you're going to see players be able to use cannabis, get a prescription from the team doctor, and go home and medicate with it and come back to practice with no ill side effects or what have you. And I believe there's going to be CBD in locker rooms and what have you. This is going to be this is really a turning point for cannabis, and I'm excited about it, not only for athletes but society in general.
Yeah. It is a turning point, that's for sure. It's nice to see. Here we are in 2025, but we still have to wait for announcement. We don't know what the details of that announcement is, but we have to stop, look, and realize the President of the United States of America has talked about this not once, but numerous times. And then when you start to see the dialogue and some of the advisors that work with Trump's administration that are weighing in on it as well, like, it all feels like it's part of a strategy to get, like, what's the general feedback, on what people's perception and reaction is to rescheduling. And clearly with the responses from what I'm seeing on Twitter, it goes to show that almost 70% of the country is in full approval of descheduling. And I don't know what the number is for rescheduling, but it seems to me like it's a very popular topic amongst Americans. And it's great to hear and see.
It's a popular topic, and sometimes I tell people in cannabis, like, we're preaching to the choir, but looking at numbers like that and seeing numbers like that and going home to Texas and traveling the country, everybody's behind this, man, as far as deschedule or reschedule. And I think it's going to happen, man. Like I said, I'm an eternal optimist with things and what have you, but I think this is going to happen, and I'm excited about it. And hopefully, I'm one of the signers of the letter, and hopefully, I can be there when this thing happens in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
have you been paying attention at all with what's going on in Texas as it relates to intoxicating hemp and the current just ordeal that's going down? In Texas?
Yeah. And one of the guys you guys should reach out to is Ricky Williams. Ricky's big and dialed into that, man. But they can't like put that genie back in the bottle because it's worth to the state of Texas, I think, $6 billion a year. But I do agree with them that there needs to be some regulations on that, because guys are sliding in underneath the the legal and the gray area, that door there. But I think there needs to be some regulation, but you just can't cut it off and say, no, well, you can't have this when you go in Texas and you go in major cities where there's Dallas or Houston and there's a CBD or smoke shop, every other corner that are selling these intoxicants, hemp intoxicants. You just can't put that, you can't cut that spigot off. It's already out. So how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah. All eyes are on Texas because a lot of red states probably will mimic and follow just, what Texas is doing. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But you got to think the influence and the rumors that are coming out of Washington may have an impact on what their next steps are. I know we've talked this a lot, Anthony, in the last few weeks, but, we could get some sort of like, I don't want to say resolution, but outcome in Texas before we actually get a rescheduling announcement. And I'd be curious to see like how much these potential announcements coming out of Washington could have an impact on what Texas ultimately decides. Do you guys agree with that?
Of course. I know the lieutenant governor and the governor, they support President Trump. And like you said, if Texas goes, with the independently, like the 19th largest economy in the world, with all that farmland that they have, I think Texas can be a leader in the cannabis space, whether it's hemp or whether it's THC or what have you. I want Texas to be a leader. I'm from Texas, and I
Yeah.
would love to go to Texas and be in the cannabis industry. But I'm excited about the federal level and what's gonna, what's gonna come from there, from reading the tea leaves and from everybody that I'm hearing from, the athletes and people in cannabis. We're all optimistic that this thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, and I mean, I wish the leadership down in Texas would use a little bit of pragmatism and just flip the hemp industry into to a regulated adult use market, grandfather in the good actors, legitimize it, collect the tax revenue. Because you're right, the genie's not going back in the bottle. There's no way they're going to be able to enforce the law to an extent to eradicate it, and it might become an even bigger problem if they do ban it. So, I mean, federal policy influencing Texas policy, or Texas policy influencing federal policy, is going to be interesting to watch, because I'm not sure which comes first, but I have a feeling that we're going to get federal policy that that rears its head via the administration giving us an announcement before you get some sort of semblance of resolution to Texas.
Correct.
Yeah. So what would you like? Do you have ambitions, hopefully? Like if you had a chance to sit down with President Trump, if you we saw you in Washington 4 months ago, but if you ever did get back to Washington and got a chance to like speak directly with President Trump, what would you tell him about cannabis and just the whole rescheduling process?
You know what? If I'm speaking to President Trump, then he's already rescheduled it. So first thing I wanted to do is thank him, and then tell him, like, if we go to the lowest level of rescheduling, go to a level 5, then we're business. We were business like the other sin industries of like alcohol and tobacco. So regulators like that, taxes like that, and number one thing that I would want to tell him is cannabis is medicine.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that uses it adult use or recreational. Everybody uses it to feel better. So it's medicine. And the millions of dollars and billions of dollars in R&D that's going to come into this industry, they're going to prove that it's medicine.
Yeah. Have you spoken to Mike Tyson's team, Ricky Williams, Steven Jackson, Allen Iverson, those types of groups? Like, what's their take on a lot of this right now? And how do you think they're viewing this and supporting it?
They're optimistic. Everybody's optimistic. Over, since we've last talked, I've probably talked to 100 athletes, and I get a lot of no's. Let me say that, and that's no issue. That's no issue, because I was trying to tell guys, like, listen, this is not red or blue or left or right, man. This is about the cannabis industry. So this is what you keep it on to move this industry forward. It's not a matter of this. And we tried to get it done with the last administration. It didn't happen. This one, we believe it's going to happen, and everybody is not getting into the politics of it. We're keeping it in a narrow scope on moving this industry forward, and that goes from Mike Tyson to Wyclef John to Kevin Durant, John Sally, and all these guys that signed on to the letter. We're optimistic, and we think it's going to be done.
With reform and with, let's say, the environment loosening up around cannabis. Historically, I feel like it's been easier for retired players versus active to talk about it, to endorse it, to embrace it. Do you think you start to see more active players take that role on the back of, let's say, a rescheduling or a loosening of?
I think
regulations?
it's going to take time. I think you're going to see it, and the athlete that is going to be the cannabis athlete that everybody knows about, he's probably in junior high right now,
Yeah.
or in high school. It's going to take some time. but I think active athletes are going to come out and tell you about the medicinal benefits of it. And
Yeah,
then
of
you're going to
course.
get it to the point where guys say, hey, I use it to relax or what have you. And it's much more safer than alcohol and tobacco because you got a lot of athletes that are smoking cigars and what have you,
Yeah.
and they're getting behind these liquor companies. They're going to get behind cannabis the same way, but do it, a little bit more responsibly.
Yeah. Anthony and I were at an event actually a couple years ago in Miami. We're upstairs at one of the Soho rooms, and it was a packed place. And there was this guy that came in with a guitar in his case, and we didn't know who it was. And 2 minutes later, he gets on a microphone, and it was Wyclef, and the whole room shifted around. Eyes as big as the room, but it's super, super nice guy. We just thought he was just some random musician coming in just to entertain a crowd, but turned around and basically he was the center of the room, that's for sure. But really, really good guy. And hopefully him, along with other people that you've spoken with, as you said before, are really look, we've always talked about this for years to get more people involved, to like bring this message forward. But it's great to see in the last, especially 60 days, I will say, that it's picked up to a whole other level, which is building this momentum. And ultimately, let's hope we get the outcome that we want. And to Trump's point, within those next few weeks. But that's what you firmly believe. You think we're going to get an announcement relatively soon?
I think we're going to get. It's not going to be in the winter. It's going to be in the fall. I think he's cleared out his summer schedule. I think the Ukraine, Putin, Russian deal has, is going to wrap up, and then we should be on the agenda. And he does what he does what he says he's going to do. He made these promises on the campaign trail. He has the letter. He's acknowledged the letter. And I think it's going to happen. And I think everybody in cannabis should be positioning themselves when it is rescheduled or descheduled to take advantage of it, because you're going to get a lot of big players in here that we haven't seen before. But everybody that's in it right now should be positioning themselves to take advantage of it.
What do you mean by big players?
I'm talking about, and I know in cannabis, I am one of the ones that everybody goes against when I say I want big tobacco in here. I want big alcohol in the cannabis. You know why? Because I want the billions of dollars in R&D that they're going to bring to this industry. I want the billions of dollars of marketing where they can, market like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That's a marketing plan by, the doctors and Kellogg, Kellogg Corporation to tell you that so you can eat their cereal and what have you. But if we get the marketing behind cannabis and showing that it's medicine and things that it can do in 10 years and in 20 years, it's going to be in every medicine cabinet in the country, plant-based medicine.
Well said. You stop and think of it that way, we are on the verge of history here. And that's not over exaggerating in one way or the other, because it's been 52 years classified as a Schedule I drug and a stigma that's been attached to it. And I think we have to stop and realize what's at stake here, and how history, like you said, could be around the corner, right?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Before I let you go, end of the summer, former football player, what's caught your eye in the NFL this year? Anything?
I'm with the Jets, man. I'm up here in New Jersey. So I told you I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah.
And so
you got to be with the Jets, right, my friend?
Yeah, you have to be playing and being an alumni of them. But yeah, I'm looking at the Jets. I'm looking at the quarterback issue in Cleveland. But I'm just ready for football, man. I love football. It's done a lot of things for me. I know the dangers of football, but there's nowhere I would want to be at 1 o'clock on a Sunday besides, watching football.
Well, if we didn't
maybe church.
Yeah.
If it's any consolation,
watching football.
If it's any consolation for prize, I'm a Dolphins fan, so it's I'm with you with commiserating.
We can commiserate later on. We're gonna commiserate later on.
Well, we will say, Anthony and I, if we didn't get this momentum and rescheduling, we thought about actually applying as a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, because it appears they're just tired just about everything.
I'm hoping Shador comes out just gunslinging and gets that job by midseason.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him.
You look good in that first preseason game. But listen, always good catching up with you. And obviously, if we get some sort of announcement, we'll reach out to you right away, because I know you're very impactful, and you've done a lot for this industry. And let's face it, athletes like yourselves have access to the average person that doesn't. So great to see that you're utilizing that to not only your advantage, but really the overall industry's advantage to bring cannabis rescheduling and the education around it to life. But on behalf of Anthony and I and our community here, we just want to appreciate you logging on here today and joining us and providing an update. Okay.
I appreciate you guys giving me this platform, and you guys are part of the team that are pushing this forward, man. So let's just everybody push together.
Awesome.
Thanks, Marvin.
Good seeing you, Marvin.
Thank you.
Keep in touch.
Peace.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All
Take
right.
care.
Good guy. Really good guy.
Yeah. By the way, just to clarify, I'd mentioned the gun ownership and cannabis ruling.
Yeah.
It was not the Supreme Court. It was a federal circuit court that had made the ruling yesterday, just to clarify.
Well said. Well said. Good little interview there. And guys like him and it's just, you need a bunch of people to move something. And this is exactly what's happening right now. So it's great to see. Onwards and upwards here on the TDR Trade to Black podcast here on a Friday, presented by Dutchie. Anthony Varrell here with Shad Dales. Time for segment number 2 as we bring it on cannabis advocate, founder, and board member of Tyson 2.0, Brady Cobb. Brady Cobb is on the show, everybody. We always have people asking us, is Brady Cobb coming on? Well, today, their prayers have come true. Good to see you, my friend.
How's it going? Good to see you. I don't know about prayers, but good to see you. I think we all have prayers aimed a different direction. They're aimed at 1600 Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, I have to give you a big round of applause for that interview that you handled yourself with Chris Cuomo. But what was that like, a couple of weeks ago on with Mike Tyson? And I had to hand it to Chris. He seemed like he was pretty well, he did his homework and understands the space. But it's great to see, obviously, some media members and athletes and people like yourselves making the media tours to bring this to light. But all in all, what was that experience like?
It was amazing. I mean, Mike's, anytime you get to be around Mike Tyson, it's always a cool moment. He's got just such an amazing history as someone that grew up watching him fight, and as the rest of the world did. I feel like the world stopped when he fought. That was just a big impression on my life. So to be lined up with him right now and have him fully committed to a fight for cannabis reform and being a very authentic person, probably in my opinion one of the most authentic celebrities, athletes that truly is fighting for this. Same way I feel about like a Ricky Williams. It's they believe in the plant. This is not MSO CEOs who used to say they like taking edibles, so they're all behind the plant. These people are actually using it on a day-to-day basis to make their life better. And to be on a platform like Chris Cuomo, and we did Ed Martin, and we've done some other media together. It's a great platform to be able to truly get this message out that this is a plant, and we've had a war on a plant for the better part of the last 70 years, and it's a joke. And it's time for that to end, and it feels like the administration is aligned with that. It's been amazing after, Anthony's seen it all these years of getting bashed on Twitter as being a Republican cannabis advocate and a sellout and you don't understand reform. To actually now see that you have a lot of Republican accounts, very conservative accounts on X supporting cannabis reform. The narrative is just to see, all these years of hard work by myself and candidly a lot of others. I mean, kudos to, Charlie Batchel and everybody at I guess it's National Cannabis Roundtable or whatever they call it, U.S. Cannabis Roundtable, and Kim Rivers leaning in. All these athletes that signed on to this letter. You got Weldon, you got Todd Harrison, you got a lot of people that have been good or bad or otherwise in the market, have been working really hard. Jason Wild and his case, and that's putting pressure on the way to the Supreme Court to see it now.
I heard Jason might be the cannabis. I heard Jason might be the cannabis commissioner moving forward, as per a Spaces yesterday. So
perfect.
Yeah, he might be getting some national attention. I was surprised, to be honest. I know people see South Park in more of like a lowbrow platform, but I mean, South Park moves things. It's got reach. I mean, do you see someone like a Rogan or one of the real just meteoric podcasts picking this up now and running with it, and really shining a light on it moving forward?
I think so. I mean, I think we're all I think you're seeing it happen in real time. I mean, there's some real accounts debating cannabis, and whether good, bad, or otherwise, the overwhelming, aside from Charlie Kirk, who previously said no one should go to jail for weed, and now he's pandering to somebody. But outside of Charlie, it's been pretty overwhelmingly in favor of, we shouldn't be at war against a plant. It shouldn't be next to cocaine and heroin. Let's reschedule it and move it. And I think in the communications that, and I'm confident and optimistic, cautiously optimistic, because we certainly have had many moments. But the difference here is when, and I've said this, through the years, when an administration's behind something,
Yeah.
it's different. In this case, the administration's is taking this on. They're willing to publicly comment on it. They're willing to publicly discuss it. It's not shrouded in, a press release and then we never hear about it again. It's anything in DC is possible, especially on the executive side, if the head executive is behind it. So, indications are we're in a good spot. We got to see it actually. I think all of us understand we got to see that actually happen and actually pen hit paper, given the amount of, Schumers and Wydens and
I get it.
Bookers and
So
Bidens that we've had. But I
that
feel very
was
good.
that was actually my next question. I mean, I've become like a political junkie. I know like you've paid attention and participated in politics in the state and federal level for a long time. What do you think the Democrats' reactions are going to be if Trump actually does this? Do you think they're going to be in favor of it? Do you think that they're kind of going to ignore it? Or like what kind of response do you think is going to come out of that side of the aisle?
Ignore.
At this point, I think they'll try to find a way to. I mean, it would be absolutely fitting if they tried to then say cannabis should be criminalized again, because I feel like, like I feel
Yeah.
like that's, I think what you're gonna hear is the rally cry, the same one we heard in 20 and 21, that it doesn't include descheduling and legalization. It doesn't, it's only going to benefit corporations. It's the same narrative. They won't be happy that there's been a big incremental step taken forward by a Republican president, that a lot of them have TDS and just can't see that it's something that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's what I expect to see. I think there are very moderate Democrats, which is where I think the political points are to be scored, that are going to be in that middle zone, that have, I think, swung the last election towards President Trump, based on how far left went last time, and the whole Kamala and Joe Biden no primary, the whole deal. I think that middle of the ground voter on either side of the aisle is where this decision is going to land the hardest, because I think it's common sense at this point. When you look at the actual numbers, you look at the alcohol numbers, their business is way down. You look at the overall cannabis approval ratings across the United States, that's up. It's an 80-20 issue, as the president indicated himself in his comments. So if it's an 80-20 issue, as my consistent message to the administration has always been, harmonize public sentiment with public policy.
Yeah.
Not saying don't legalize it. I'm not saying completely legalize it. I think, the comments about smoking in public and everything else. Well, there are a lot of people are talking about New York and LA and San Francisco, which have a certain political party that have governed their regulations and laws for a long period of time. New York was the genius idea of, let's decriminalize it before we regulate it. Well, of course, people are going to walk outside and smoke it because it's not illegal. In Florida, despite Ron DeSantis' narrative, we didn't have that problem because we have a Clean Air Act amendment where you can't smoke anything inside buildings or in public places. Doesn't matter what it is. So to me, I think they're going to be upset because it's not their candidate that did it. But at the end of the day, everyone's got to realize, and even my best friend Tom Angel, after he had a little soy in the morning, would admit Joe Biden was as big of a prohibitionist as anybody else that's ever been in that White House.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I think
on the flip side, do you think the Republicans will then fall in line if Trump comes out and reschedules this thing, and the ones that just have no ground to stand on, they basically parrot Sam, will just shut up once and for all and stop with the nonsense? No,
I think I think that's just a reality of American politics. The far left and the far right are never gonna stop. I don't foresee a Pete Sessions or Sam, which whoever's funding Sam, I don't see any of them actually stopping. I do think that the administration, and I think Pam Bondi is going to do the right thing here and make sure that whatever is put out correctly, as far as the announcement and how they handle it is going to be. So you got to expect litigation is going to flow.
Yeah.
They're not, the prohibitionist side of this is not just going to lay their arms down and say, okay, cool, thanks. There's going to be
Brady, from a legality standpoint, though, even if there are litigations, that doesn't stop the process of rescheduling, correct?
Correct. No, it wouldn't. I mean, absent some extraordinary relief from an activist judge, which would obviously then progress up pretty quickly. but I don't foresee that happening. But it wouldn't surprise me if they try to challenge it. Someone tries to challenge it on the prohibitionist side. I think the Republican, the far right, just the fringe of either party right now is very fringy. They are way out there,
Yeah.
and I think you're going to hear crazy rhetoric from the left. You're going to hear crazy rhetoric from the far right, and I think everyone else is kind of down the middle. And that was, lobbying Congress actively to see the pivot in cannabis from we could only really get meetings with the far left when we started, and now it's an issue that's pretty well known on the Hill. Most staff is very educated on it, both sides of the aisle. So that just shows you that the issue, and that's a testament to everybody that's on the ground doing the.
Still there? Oh,
Nope.
I think we lost him.
Connection issue.
Made some good
Pop back
points.
up. Yeah, I'm curious to see what Schumer and Booker and Elizabeth Warren has written letters about rescheduling, that rescheduling should happen. And Elizabeth Warren is no friend of Donald Trump.
No.
So it's going to be very
Well, you make a good point.
Curious to see what happens.
You make a good point about the Dems.
We got Brady back.
You're back. There he is. Yeah. All right. I think like to Anthony's point about what the Dems will do and how they'll react.
Oh, and we got him now.
Still there? Brady, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Go?
Yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you.
You good? God damn. He says God damn. Can you hear us?
I got you.
All right.
Cool.
I was just saying, like, to Anthony's point on how these Dems will react, I think obviously Democratic senators that were not for it will stay quiet. But I think that the Elizabeth Warrens of the world will definitely say this is something that I've been advocating and looking out for themselves and say I've been advocating this for years. Because I do remember an interview with her about a year ago where she was saying that Donald Trump in his first 4 years had a chance to move, obviously with some sort of reform on cannabis, and did nothing. So, let's hope that is the case. But before we even go down that road and see if there's any confirmation, that's still up in the air. But I do want to get your reaction. Like, again, I've been asking this question over and over and over. What did you think of President Trump last week being asked that question at that presser, but not only answering the question, but actually giving a timeline saying that we're going to be making a decision in the next few weeks? Because that grabbed my attention in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was amazing that he commented on it. I was hoping to finally have it pop up in a press conference. I mean, how long have we been waiting for that? It's to have somebody, we had Merrick Garland say cannabis reform or a memo may be coming soon or an update's coming soon. And then it was like, he took Schumer soon and said, hold my beer, and really strung it out. So it was amazing to have a direct question. But I also think, it's representative of what Trump does. If he takes on an issue, it's not just going to waffle. He said he goes after something, he goes after it. If he's going to lean in and do something, he does it. So when he laid out a timeline to me, that's not a Schumer soon, even though it's completely fair until it happens. We've had so many rug pulls. It's completely fair for people to be cautiously optimistic or complete skeptics. I think some people are a little too skeptical, but that's just me. I'm always an eternal optimist. But for me, I think that's just representative of when the president takes on an issue, he's taking it on and he's going to comment, and good, bad, or otherwise, and he's going to give you a decision, good, bad, or otherwise, because he's running 1600 Pennsylvania very much like a business, and if you want to be successful in business as a CEO, you got to execute. So he seems like he's executing.
We've obviously been talking a lot about rescheduling. I mean, another big catalyst that we could be getting next year is Florida, with adult use potentially going back on the ballot. How are you feeling about that with it being a gubernatorial year? DeSantis is still rearing his head around the state. And I mean, I know we don't have clarity into who's going to be running, but it very well could be another DeSantis on the ballot come 2026. I mean, do you think we get it done next year, or there's still a lot of smoke to clear through to get it done?
I think being candid, it's an uphill battle. And I only say that in the sense that it's a midterm election. And if you look at any constitutional amendment in a midterm election, they tend to have problems because of a lower voter turnout. Mm-hmm. You have a much bigger turnout in a presidential election. Now, I mean, Kim's and Trulieve are doubling down. If in a perfect world, do I wish that the amendment was in a 501c3 Florida for care, like it was in 2016 when we did get a medical through with 72%, so that it couldn't be. I think one of the hardest hitting arguments. I don't agree with the argument because there's a robust market down here full of competition. I think the argument was candidly bullshit, but the argument that scored a lot of points with voters just because it's a hot button issue was that because it was in Trulieve's name, it's a monopoly. Good, bad, or otherwise, I think to neutralize that argument and have it be in a 501c3, before the real campaigning starts, that to me would increase the chances, but who knows? I'm saying that from the sidelines. Kim's writing the checks, so she's making the calls, and I'm tipping my hat, and she's led on the issue. Hopefully, we can get a better chance this time, but we're starting off significantly behind the 8 ball historically. If you look at constitutional amendments and midterm elections, just being real. I mean, if you look at 2014, it was 58% on Amendment 2 to legalize medical cannabis in Florida, and it was 72% in the Trump's first presidential election in 2016.
Right.
So turnout's massively higher, and this issue was just litigated pretty hard, litigated in a court of public opinion in 2024 aggressively, especially September, October, November, when DeSantis went on his war path against legalized, regulated, and tested cannabis, and instead favored gas station hemp. And I did get a good chuckle that I saw that his Attorney General James Upmeyer just had a massive statement about banning, basically the synthetic heroin that the same groups that are members of the Healthy Alternatives Coalition in Florida, that they lobbied against recreational and fought the regulation of hemp. And these are also political insiders in the Republican Party, Evan Power and Bill Hemlick, who are, Evan's the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. They championed these products being in gas stations. Now, the governor and the attorney general are saying we want to get some of these products out of gas stations, and now they actually. So it's been a complete flip. I hope they keep going. I will say the hemp regulation under Wilson Simpson, under the new regulations, has increased substantially. They're leaning in pretty hard, so that's good. But I think the constitutional amendment, if Florida goes, it's the second largest market in the world. I still am a huge believer in this market, but we're going to have to do things slightly differently and really get a full coalition in my mind to get it done, because it's going to be tough just based on turnout. We need a lot of people to be very educated in a good way. And good news is DeSantis isn't running. So maybe he doesn't go do 17 days of appearances and flip Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach against weed, which is still baffling to me because all those are traditionally blue votes. He flipped Miami-Dade against weed, which is incredible.
Wild. It was wild to see on election night. I watched it and I go, "There's no way!" And then boom, Miami-Dade was
two biggest issues that he used. The two that scored the points, or in the case of like a Mike Tyson, the body blows that hurt the most were monopoly and public smoking.
Same.
Those two things.
Same.
Third was home grow, which the governor doesn't even support home grow.
I don't want to get into it, but that was obviously a question from day one, which was this whole monopoly angle. And if we were thinking it, there was a lot of people thinking it, but hopefully that we grow from here and learn. And like you said, becomes the second biggest cannabis market in the world at some point, because that would be very favorable.
The don't turn Florida into California line was a good one too. When he started pushing that.
Well, curious to see if we get an announcement relatively soon, if it's favorable, and more importantly, if we start to see some of these lawmakers in Washington view cannabis differently. And I bring that up regarding states 2.0, safer, if those start to build momentum. I can't help but think that they will. Do you not think, Brady?
I mean, I think you've seen a lot of folks are paying attention now. My ultimate goal, and people used to laugh at me, but my ultimate goal is to have this industry truly regulated and taxed at at least at a federal level in a meaningful way. Because once you're a part of the government's revenue stream, they usually don't want to get rid of you. If you're contributing revenue, and in this case we're contributing revenue, I do think the model of regulation, as I've always said, will be very similar to alcohol. There'll be a top line federal that just FDA is not going to get involved here, just like they didn't get involved in supplements. It's going to be appropriate warning labels put on, and then I think you're going to see it delegated to these state programs, and this whole interstate commerce angle is going to have to get figured out on what products can move. I know there's some in California that would love it to start today. I don't see that happening. I see some of the local state programs being very protectionist of their licensees. but be that as it may, I think you're going to see overall federal policy is going to, it's already moved up to, when I started, I mean, I'm not kidding. We couldn't get meetings with the guys that made coffee, and that was with Haley Barber's lobby groups trying to set the meetings.
Crazy.
So to now have this discussed at a leadership level, I think you'll see if the president makes the move that we all anticipate that he will, and I feel very good about it. I think you're going to see Congress then follow with safer and/or states, because we're going to need some guardrails. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Bondi
You think
style.
that will follow then? You do think that will follow?
I do. I mean, you got to remember rescheduling, and Anthony, you and I have talked about this at length. That's the first move. The actual we are rescheduling is okay, great. Now you got, I don't know how many federal agencies have to harmonize their rules and regulations, the banking system, the exchanges, healthcare, FDA. All of those have to come into line, and they're going to need regulatory guidance. They're going to need something to guide it. So it's either another memo from the Attorney General on what an interim process looks like while we're bringing everything into guidance, and then secondarily, you're going to need something to give comfort and to actually, I believe rescheduling with the right rulemaking that follows it could address all the banking and exchange issues. I'm in the minority of that discussion. I recognize that, but I do, because again, once you're in the administrative side of things, you got a little bit more leeway. And if the administration wants to see it happen, it'll happen. But I do think that rescheduling is move one. Trade accordingly, and then in my mind, there's some trades, and there's still in this sector, there's always been trades and investments. That holds true on rescheduling too. There's trades when they pop, and then there's investments in the companies that you think are going to make it as the regulations settle in. So we still have years of work ahead of us. Once the announcement comes.
We also have compliance frameworks that need to be implemented by these companies as well once rescheduling is announced. But let's first just walk before we run, and let's see how this plays out. And
let's get the fucking rescheduling, and then we can figure the rest out.
Yeah, well said. Listen, my friend, good seeing you on a Friday. Let's keep in touch, okay?
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, Brady. All right, moving along here on a Friday. We're going to now just switch over to segment 3, and this is a big one. It's let's cue the music, Arns. Time for Dan for the chart, guys. Anthony will be back after the segment. Good Friday morning. How are you, sir? You know why we have you on? Because we actually have some substance to talk about. And I know that you always have really good information, but we all know until we get an announcement or any kind of momentum, we are stuck in this kind of like la-la land, so to speak, right now. But we got basically feedback from President Trump 11 days ago, and there's some substance to cover off here in the industry. So how much you've been following this closely based on some of your trading approaches over these last couple of weeks, Dan?
Yeah, definitely following very closely. Back essentially the way I've seen things play out is we had wave 1 of what looked like coordinated tweets going out. Then there was a big wave 2 when we had the article as well. But, that wave 1, just knowing how much this administration has had inside info leak out as moves are made. Yeah, that was meaningful to me. And so, I put it at 75% then. And at this point, I'm up to 90-95% that we're going to get this. Yeah. And that means a number of things. Just want to talk before we get to the charts. Using Bitcoin as an example, we knew the Bitcoin ETFs were coming. We ran, there was a big time long-term low. We ran maybe 14 months, 200% into the ETF launch. The ETF launch was a sell the news event in the sense that we popped up and we dropped 21% in the next 2 weeks. But you zoom out, and we then went up another 100%. And as the ETF started to buy. So sell the news, you can see that here as well. If a lot of people know it's coming and they're positioning, they're going to sell into a big pop. But that could just lead to a pullback. We know we're going to get 20-30% pullbacks along the way. And that could lead to a longer term base of support that then sees follow through as, things come to fruition. So when you hear the phrase sell the news, just be aware that there can be an announcement sell the news, but it's not like the top. That doesn't have to be the case.
Well, we are seeing a lot of that right now. That's for sure. So let's jump right into it. MSOs we're going to look at right now. What are we seeing as far as support level? What's the next gap that needs to be filled? Are we seeing a short right now? Like we saw Powell announce interest rates. What was that, 2 hours ago? I haven't gotten a chance to look at the charts yet here this morning, but what are we looking at here today?
Just a note, Powell had a speech. He hasn't officially changed rates. That decision is mid-September, but what changed is probabilities. We were down to 70% chance that we're going to get a rate cut mid-September, and now we're back up to 90 whatever percent. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Market ripped. SPY hit an all-time high today. One thing that the sector wants to see, which we are seeing, is rotation into small caps. If you look at IWM divided by SPY, we have the biggest amount of rotation that we've seen in the last 4 to 5 months. And, that shows higher risk tolerance. That shows rotation. So that's a good thing. If you're talking psychedelics and cannabis, that's a good thing. But as far as MSOS is concerned, we're seeing the characteristics of a strong uptrend. Yep. One thing that I've done to make a lot of money as a trader is what I call a back burner, which is buying short-term oversold conditions for a longer-term higher low. And that's exactly what happened in MSOS, where we had the hourly oversold conditions, so almost to the penny, marked the daily higher low. So now 434 is the key. Actually, it's 436 is the key support level that the bulls want to maintain from here. And it's all about 538. There's a battle right now going on for $5 psychological resistance. We've been going back and forth over that level. It's been tough and stubborn. But, bigger picture, unless we're breaking 434 or 538, we're not getting any additional information. And sideways trading is just fine. That's healthy. After a significant move up, you go up 60% and then you trade sideways. There's nothing wrong with that. So just got to maintain 434 from here. And if this news is for real, which many of us think it is, then the dip should continue to be bought. And we know that the ETF has a bunch of cash. I'm very curious to see how they use it. I'm okay with them having cash to ideally deploy during consolidation, but those are the levels we care about on MSOS.
So 534 is the number you got to be watching then.
538. And if we break that level, we're then going to explore the gap fill from the vote. When we gap down on that vote, there's a lot of space where we can move around 549 to like 682. And I really want to see the bulls explore that range with another leg up, but we may need to trade sideways a bit before we get there.
Which you said is not necessarily a bad thing too, right?
Yeah, sideways is fine. Again, at this point, we now have the level 434. You break 434 and that's a pretty big setback. But if you're holding that, again, just keep the higher lows coming. And we're going to look for another higher low compared to 434 if we keep consolidating. Today's a little disappointing. I would like to see the sector running with literally everything else in response to Powell, an hour and 48 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But, you can't want close over $5. That'd be nice.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's now move to, I think we're going to look at TCNNF TrueLeaf. What are we seeing? Because we're starting to see, some of the direct listings outside the MSOs that aren't swaps, that more and more investors are buying individual stocks. But what are we seeing as far as TrueLeaf?
So we did establish a support level at 676. And again, same thing. If you break that level at this point, it will be a confirmed daily downtrend. We obviously don't want to see that happen. So 676 key support, and the high of the move, 925. Is key resistance. You can see we've recovered maybe half of the consolidation at this point. We're going to look at some names that are clearly stronger, that are back up testing their recent highs. So you're going to get varying degrees. Everything's going to look like MSOS, but a little bit different. We're going to see names that are a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker. And again, just from my perspective as a trader, I highly suggest anybody that is trading and not investing to have core positions and then shorter term positions, because I'm definitely going to be selling some into a headline big pop if we get it, but I am going to keep a longer term core of position. Just like I mentioned, it can be a short term sell the news event, but a longer term uptrend. And so it's really important to differentiate those two. And what I do is have multiple accounts. I've got my swing trade account and my day trading account, and that mentally helps me differentiate.
Okay. What are we seeing as far as GTI?
GTI is a little bit stronger, again, in the sense that I'd say, the last 2 days, it's a little bit stronger because of the amount we've recovered, right? We topped out at $9. That's a very clear resistance level. We topped out 3 times there. We pulled back. 732 is now the must hold. And we came close to $9 today. We got up to 876. So again, if you're just comparing, TCNNF and GTBIF, the bounce the last few days has made more of a recovery. Again, they're fairly in line doing the same thing, but we care about the consolidation low and the bull move high, and we're right in the middle of that range right now.
Yeah, this stock has surprised me a little bit. It hasn't moved as much as others, but you know, at the end of the day, being the most fundamentally sound company in the space right now, it does surprise you a little bit. But we're still early, and I wouldn't really count all of our eggs before they're hatched. But good to know about GTI. What were we going to say, Dan?
It's you see this all the time in all the sectors where the leader, you know, everybody loved the fact that GTBIF was not going down as significantly as everything else. It's also not going up as significantly. That's the way that it goes. You know, I trade the uranium sector, and CCJ, it does the same thing. It's not as volatile. There's other names that will shoot up more on bull moves, but in the bear market, they're dropping way more as well. So it's almost like the more stable, the less volatile version. And that's why, you know, having multiple positions where if this can be a core fundamental position, but those lower, you know, tier 2, tier 3s are going to see bigger percentage moves on catalysts. So, you know, allocating perhaps a smaller portion of capital to those names to benefit a bit when the momentum is in the favor of the bulls, as it has been over the last couple of months.
Hence the reason why it's still pretty much a retail investor community here in cannabis, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Let's now switch to a couple of companies that don't really run into custody issues regarding the MSO ETF, and that's Cureleaf, Terracin, and Village Farms. So let's kick things off first with Cureleaf. And let's face it, this has been probably the story of the summer so far on how this stock has performed.
Yeah. And we could see that rotation taking place. Again, it's if you just do the chart, CURLF divided by MSOS, it shows you that shift taking place. It started on July 10th, and it's been up since then. And it was a very impressive, you know, we were at the weakest it had been compared to the ETF. And then after a couple of months, we're now testing the strongest it's ever been. So again, just a clear little indication of that rotation. Right now, you know, the simple statement is this is a daily bull flag unless proven otherwise. And the only way it's going to be proven otherwise is if you break 241. So the simple statement is if 241 is support, the bulls are just fine. They're not worried about anything. And 308, the recent high, is our current resistance level. And again, sideways, just fine. Hold that low that we said a few days ago and, you know, churn sideways and then ideally get your next leg up. Yeah.
You bring up sideways. I know with MSOs, you can trade options on calls. Do you do any of that kind of trading at all, Dan, or not so much?
I don't. That's I definitely, you know, if you ask me, what am I looking to explore as a trader as my next, it would be buying it or it would be selling options. And getting better at that. You know, I'm really good at recognizing when volatility is going to constrict and when it's going to expand. And there are definitely complex option strategies surrounding that to take advantage of that knowledge. But I'm at the point right now in my career where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm going to keep going with my style as long as it keeps working great. And maybe someday I venture in that direction.
Okay, well said. Whatever works for you. And if it's like you said, not broke, don't fix it. So let's now move to, as I brought up Cureleaf, let's bring up Terracin next. What are we seeing?
So we don't have as clear a base of support. If I had to pick one, it would be 112, this little base. But grinding, you know, grinding higher. We broke the recent high. We looked at all those other names. All those other names topped out pretty much August 14th together. And you can see we've gotten over the high of August 14th here. So a little bit more momentum. You know, it's not going to run away without MSOS in the sector, but we can say there's a small amount of relative strength there. And again, holding well, 112. Bulls want to maintain that level. As far as resistance, it's this 145. And then we go back and we've already filled the gap from, I think that's, let's see, when was that? Vote gap was back in November. TSNDF. Yeah, we've already filled that gap. So that's a good sign. And next level would be up at 151 after 145.
Good to know. And then the last one, Village Farms. This baby's moved as well. And it had a heck of an earnings call as well.
Yeah, but before the sector as a whole showed any sign of life, this name was standing out leaps and bounds ahead of anything else. It's the most bullish name in cannabis, regardless of, you know, Canada, US, whatever. Short-term support is down at 252. Bulls want to maintain that level. Hit a new high today up at 305. And again, it's just the fact that it's hitting multiple year highs where not many names are. The next major resistance level for me would be up at 311. But just a perfect example of setting a long-term bottom. This is the weekly chart, and it's just an extremely strong weekly uptrend. And you know, every bull is looking at this chart and saying, I hope my chart continues to do something that looks like that over the next few months.
Yeah, I think every YouTube watcher's favorite stock is Tilray. What are we seeing with Tilray?
Tilray is holding on. if we compare it to CGC, which we'll do in just a moment, you'll see the big difference. But again, same thing. We built the base of support. 101 is the level, but one psychological is the level that the bulls want to maintain. And you'll see with, I used to trade penny stocks, solely penny stocks for my first 4 years. And that $1 level, whether it's support or resistance, is major. And so it's a good sign to back test and hold it. And you can see it looks similar to MSOS, where we topped out at 137 and now we're holding $1 and we're chopping sideways, but want to maintain $1. You compare it to CGC, look at the red flags here. We gave back almost the entire move.
Yeah.
So in terms of the name that responded the worst out of anything that I look at, it's CGC. You just got to call it like it is. Even if you're a CGC bull, if you can't admit that, then you've got a massive bias that's going to cost you money.
Yeah. And don't look now, but High Tide up 38% over the last day. But
monster move. Yeah. I mean, again, another one, this is, don't fear sideways. Look at this sideways range where we traded sideways for months and didn't do a whole lot. This hold of 210 was a launching pad. And then just look at the volume, just a massive spike in volume. And here we are testing this high right now, 362. And if we get over that, it's going to join the multiple year high crew with VFF. And it stands out in that regard as well. Just an absolute monster. Again, this daily chart's going to see consolidation. You don't go straight up. And that consolidation is going to be, you'll pull back 15% or whatever, but just got to keep setting those daily higher lows, and very strong volume here.
We had CEO Raj Grover on a week ago, and we asked that question as to why this stock, based on all the positive news, including their new acquisition of 51% stake in a company called Remexian in Germany, which is going to really enhance their international business model. And obviously, a lot of those questions were answered in the last 7 days because the stock is no longer flat, but a heck of a couple of days trading for High Tide. There's a big meeting going on here in about 3 minutes in Washington. And one of the discussions is going to be about psychedelic medicine. And with that, we have seen a heck of a run by a couple of stocks. So let's bring up Atai Life Sciences, which continues to motor, and their chairman, Christian Agermeyer, continues to buy. But wow, this stock has really performed well in the last month.
Yeah, definitely the leader in the space from the chart perspective. Again, another name that hit multiple year highs first and was standing out, putting in a long-term bottom. And again, you look at this daily chart, we just traded sideways for 2 weeks and then saw another leg up. So
you're right.
That 360 level is now an important one for me. I definitely want to see a bit more follow through up towards $5 just to not, I never like when we break resistance with no follow through, but as long as we keep the higher lows going, and 360 is now the most important level. I've had a position here for a couple of months at this point, and it's definitely a long-term mindset position. And, I'd love to see this thing keep chugging along back into the, $7, $8 range.
Yeah.
And that's definitely possible with the right kinds of catalysts, but it's been a nice, strong weekly uptrend on its own.
360 is the support level there then, correct?
Yeah, that's if we break that level for me, I'll probably trim a bit and exit a little bit of that position. Gotcha.
Okay. And then last stock we're going to bring up here today, another psychedelic company, is MindMed, MNMD. I think it's yes.
Yeah, it's had a nice move as well. There's a very clear resistance level here that is stubborn, and it's in the 10s. You can see, way back here a year ago, we topped out. A couple of years ago, 1034 was a top back then, and then we topped out here at 1044.
When was the date there? When was that date? How long ago? The one you just outlined?
This one, February this year. So 6 months ago.
Yep.
And here we are again. We're just clearly battling resistance. So, a week ago, we hit it again, 1049, topped out. And today we just hit it again, 1035. So I want to see the bulls maintain 911. If we were to lose 911 from here, that would be a significant, clear win for the bears defending resistance.
Okay.
But again, I've had a position in this one for a couple months as well. And I want to add to it because it's a smaller position, but I won't add to it until that resistant zone becomes support. Okay. And just want to give a clear example, just going back to crypto real quick. But this is a perfect example where Ethereum had a resistance level that for a year we reject. Look at this perfect back test of previous, that's your entry. The previous resistance has support, holds. And that's what I want to see happen on MNMD. Get over the resistance, back test and hold it, and then that's your signal for another leg up.
Okay. One actually stock forgot to mention in cannabis as well, somebody brought up, is Varrell. It's had a heck of a run, VRNOF, in the last little bit as well.
So yeah, it looks very similar to MSOS, but a little bit stronger, just because we got back to the high of August 14th. If MSOS did that, we'd be testing the 350s right now. So a little bit of relative strength there. 118 is the key support to maintain. As long as any consolidation holds 118, you're just fine. And as far as the next major resistance level, it's up at 2 psychological and then 208. But good sign to get back to that 173 initial high. Again, everything just needs to see MSOS get over that 358 level for more confidence and continuation.
So I'll leave this off, and I don't want to give this as investment advice, but if you're looking at, hey, you know what, I haven't followed cannabis in a while and I may want to get in right now. What do you think is like, if you were like walking into this industry for the first time, what your approach would be?
So it would depend if I'm technical or fundamental. If I'm fundamental, I want to do research down that avenue. If I'm sticking to just the charts, I want to have, some MSOS core, and then also some of the smaller names that are going to be more volatile, smaller size in that regard. And, just looking to add on if you're in the 90% plus column that descheduling is coming sometime in the next 4, 6, whatever weeks, you're looking to just add on red days, and you don't have to add all at once. Maybe I buy 20% on a red day, and then I wait, and then, okay, next solid red day, I buy 20%. I mean, you look at when were the best times to buy MSOS in the last couple of days, it's those end of day dumps, right? They're notorious with those end of day flushes, but that was an extreme dump on Tuesday. And if you buy then, it's a very quick 20%. A little bit, today we had a 20% recovery from that level. So use the capital during red and during pullbacks, because as we know, people are going to be impatient in this sector. Bears are going to do their things. Traders are going to do their things. We're going to see 20% pullbacks regardless of what's going on. And again, even on an announcement, if you get a halt on MSOS and you shoot up, and then we're going to find a top, and sometime, within the next couple of days, we'll probably pull back 20%. You just have to be able to stomach that and know that that's a part of the game.
Yeah. Lots to learn right now. Stay connected. And by staying connected, they can actually connect with you where? At the Chart Guys and any workshops coming up as things start to heat up here?
I'm going to put out a cannabis video today after hours on our YouTube channel. Definitely worth checking out. We've always got our chat room going for more active following along and trading and things like that. But yeah, our YouTube channel has lots of resources.
Awesome. Well, listen, always good. Appreciate you following up. And we're probably going to make these. And yes, just to correct everybody, Dan meant to say rescheduling, not descheduling in the next 4 to 6 weeks, but all is well. And we'll make these frequent every single Friday, because when we have you on, we know we got some price movements going on. So that's important. But anyways, always good catching up with you, and keep in touch, my friend. Okay.
All right. See you next time.
All right. Have a good week. Dan from the Chart Guys, as we bring AV back in. But sideways training isn't necessarily a bad thing. And he had some good points to make about certain resistance levels, support levels as well. Talked about 360 for Atai Life Sciences, talked about MSOs as well. But it's just nice to see some price action going on in the verticals that we cover, which is something we've been waiting for a long time. Yep. Brian Dabrowski says he loves me. He just needs me to ask hard, tougher questions. Yeah, he may be right. You know what? I'm all good for constructive feedback. And there are times where, look, I'm not going to pretend I know everything, but there are some things I am still learning. Feel confident asking certain things.
Brian's giving everyone financial advice. Sell. Let's see how that ages.
Okay. All right. But listen, all in all, good week, and feel good. It was just about the week it was. I know some people were upset with the dump towards the end of the closing bell last week, but a reminder, we were up at 22% on the week. And all in all, it looks like it was a relatively decent week as well, as there's still a lot of attention and momentum in this space. And that's important right now to keep this momentum alive. But next week should be a telling week. We'll see what happens. And another week closer to whenever this potential announcement gets made. But take that as a win. Anything else you want to add?
I'm good. We're ready to watch whatever this press conference Trump is about to do.
All right. Well, with that, I'll let you run.
It's an Oval Office announcement, so it must be important.
All right. That is, it's 12:05 and we're over an hour. But anyways, everybody, thanks for logging on here today. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you thought of the week as well. Weekly recap coming up Sunday after 4:00. I'll highlight some of the biggest developments this week in cannabis. So make sure you log on here to our YouTube channel as well. We got a few more interesting interviews, or I should say videos coming up, one on psilocybin potentially being rescheduled tonight. And then tomorrow we'll do that story about gun laws and gun owners and cannabis and what that might mean. So that'll be all latest on our TDR Cannabis in 5. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock on our latest TDR Traded Black podcast presented by Dutchie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
So, what'd you think of all that information? Some interesting stuff that we just learned once again here at the TDR Traded Black podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. So leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. And stay connected with us here at the Trade to Black podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone.